Calgary Flames offseason rumors are intensifying as multiple insiders have both proposed and reported some crazy moves that the Flames can make in the near future. From a crazy idea that could help the Flames center position issue to a move that would benefit the Flames for now and the future, this video has it all. We're going to get into all that and more in this video, but first I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I'm Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. Always feels good to be back in the original studio. But let's start with a crazy idea here, and it's something that has been floating around for honestly a lot of NHL teams. And if you looked at the thumbnail, you watched the intro, you have an idea of what is coming here, but it's still kind of nuts in my opinion. But let's get into this article here written by the great Rupert McDonald, one of my favorite Flames writers from the Hockey Writers. So he writes, Flames would be a great fit for free agent Evgeny Kuznetsov, a man who hasn't played in the NHL in a while, who arguably used to be a star. Remember his, flying eagle celebration from back in the day. Won the cup, of course, with the Caps. But interesting that he might want to come back to the Chell. And are the Flames a fit? Well, let's dive in. All credit due to Mr. McDonald here. So he writes, the Calgary Flames selected some center prospects in the 2025 draft, but they are still lacking center depth on their NHL roster, especially going into next year. The Flames have been quiet throughout free agency, and it looks like they will head into the 2025-26 season with Kadri, Frost, and Michael Backlund down the middle. I believe who's fourth on the depth chart? Is it Kirkland at this point? The fourth line center spot remains up in the air. Several Flames have experience playing up the middle, including Pospisil and Sharkey, as does the unsigned Connor Zary, but they all seem better suited to the wing, and I 100% agree with that. The Flames need to add a center, and they have more than $15 million in cap space to work with. While ideally they would acquire a young top six centerman, that's easier said than done. We'll get into that later in this video. A better option might be to sign a stopgap solution from the free agent market. As fate would have it, there's a very intriguing option still available. Evgeny Kuznetsov. Yes, it is a crazy idea. Kuznetsov in Calgary? What the heck? So Kuznetsov does want to return to the NHL. That's why, a lot of teams, I guess, have been linked to Kuzi, but man, I say Kuzi. That's what we used to call Kuzmenko. That one hurt a little bit, but I guess Kuznetsov was Kuzi first. But either way, Kuznetsov, once a very talented NHLer, bolted overseas to spend the 2024-25 season in the Continental Hockey League after his contract was terminated by the Hurricanes last summer. It seemed like it would be the end of his NHL career, but after putting up 37 points and 39 games for St. Petersburg SKA, the 33-year-old has said he wants to return. Now, there's a big part of this article that kind of goes over Kuznetsov's career up to this point in the NHL. And yeah, he was, quite a good player with the Capitals. He was given a chance with the Hurricanes as well, and it didn't quite go to plan. He's also obviously had, quite a bit of controversy and some off-ice issues, I guess we can say there. So he's an interesting fella, I guess is what we can say. Am I shocked that he wants to return to the NHL? No. Do I think he will return to the NHL? I'm not too sure about that one. Now, the Flames could flip Kuznetsov at the deadline. I think this is Rupert McDonald's kind of best point here. So should the Flames sign Kuznetsov, he would immediately become one of the team's top two centers alongside Kadri. He would also score goals, which they desperately need, and could teach some unique, some unique and valuable skills to the many young players on the roster. Kuznetsov would also undoubtedly receive plenty of power play time. Playing big minutes would allow him to produce solid offensive numbers, even if it's not quite up to the level he produced in his prime with the Caps. And it's kind of fun to think about, Kuznetsov on a line with Huberdeau, such a playmaker. But that's what we kind of thought would happen with Huberdeau with Sharangovich after we thought Sharangovich was, such a sniper after a couple seasons ago, and it just didn't quite pan out. So it's fun to kind of think about, but then reality sets in, and we all know what happens when you think about the reality of the Calgary Flames. Now, if the Flames manage to sign him to a one-year deal with a low cap hit, which is likely the best he can get at this point, true, the team could then flip him to a contender at the deadline for a return that would help continue their retool. The return would depend on his production, but if it's anything close to what he's done in the past, there may be a team or two willing to give up a first-round pick to bring him in. And again, that's kind of best case scenario, I don't even know if a contender would want to pick him up in the first place. He would have to kind of go ballistic with the Flames in order for that to happen. And a first round pick, wishful thinking, but it is in the realm of possibility. It just might not be the most realistic thing we can think of. Now, signing Kuznetsov is essentially a no-risk, high-reward plan for any team, but especially the Flames. If he doesn't pan out, he can be buried in the American Hockey League. If he does, he could help shore up the team's center depth for most of the season before being moved to a contender for a solid piece or two in return. It's a move that GM Craig Conroy should strongly consider. And I'm sure he probably has. There are, to me, some downsides to this. Again, bringing in kind of a washed player might not be the best idea, especially when it takes away a roster spot from maybe one of the younger guys. Now, as of right now, I think Justin Kirkland would be our fourth line center to start the year, but there are up-and-comers as well who can come up and be a center, at the NHL level, like guys like Rory Cairns, maybe even Sam Morton could sneak in, and there are others as well that are waiting for their chance in, the Flames lineup. And Craig Conroy said recently that, hey, if injuries happen, young guys can come up, and I know that's obvious, but it's true. Signing Kuznetsov, it's a crazy idea. It honestly is a crazy idea. Would I do it? Totally depends on, how expensive it is. I know it doesn't really matter for us since we have so much cap space, but you don't want to look too silly shelling out a contract. So I'm not opposed to the idea, but I don't love it. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Now let's get into more rumors. And we have quite a lengthy tweet here, actually, and we're going to go kind of piece by piece, I guess. But the first bit of this tweet is kind of the main bit here. So it comes from @FierySharky on Twitter. But he is kind of quoting someone else. So he says, from Sec214, also a known insider on Calgary Puck. And before we get into it, I will say, take this with a grain of salt. Known insider, I mean, that's like me calling myself an insider. It's not an insider at all. But anyway, let's get into this. So apparently, the Flames and Ducks have the foundation for a deal done. Could be similar to Frost's deal Connie made last year. I thought it would get done now, but it appears both camps want to see the summer's results for players being discussed before moving forward. This one will pick back up, I think, later in the season unless something changes drastically between now and then. And that's a bombshell on its own. It's just you have to look at the source, of course. But knowing that the Flames and Ducks have the foundation for a deal, already people are speculating does that mean Rasmus Andersson to Anaheim? And who does that mean coming back? We want it to be McTavish. Now, one person to this tweet replied by saying Ducks with the eyes, said McTavish, Zellweger. Well, Fiery Sharky replied by saying Sec214 mentioned in previous posts about McTavish. And that's the name that Flames fans care about the most for sure. So could we still see, a move for McTavish, the guy who could help us now and in the future? It's already an upgrade at center, and he's going to be great for the future. The foundation for a trade, a lot of people would speculate means, McTavish coming to Calgary, Andersson going to Anaheim, but it's going to be so much more complicated than that. So we'll kind of have to see. But if it's similar to the Frost trade, does that mean McTavish and Zellweger for, Andersson, one of our roster players, and maybe a pick, just like we did with Philly? You never know. Who knows if this is real or not? Either way, it's a rumor, but it's kind of bonkers. And again, it's just fun to think about. Now, if we get into the other couple parts of this, interesting stuff. So one is the market for Rasmus is bone dry right now. Craig Conroy is still fine bringing the player to camp and doesn't believe Rasmus will be a distraction. I still think the Flames find a way to sign him, but it would be against the normal for CC. That is true. Conroy prefers to trade the players away when their contracts are expiring. But that's interesting. If it's true, wow. It sounds like the Flames are closer to signing Andersson than trading him, which I don't know how is going to make the fan base feel about that one. Last thing here. So Hanzik may be a late bloomer. He's a man this offseason. Guys, effing putting in the work. Let's hope it helps between the ears, because if he can be less timid, he has Kopitar level skill. And we are starting to get some reports about Hanzik, having a really good offseason, but the same thing happened last year. Great offseason, great training camp, unbelievable preseason, and it just didn't click at the NHL level. Fingers crossed this is the year it happens. Maybe he could slot into that fourth line center. We'll just have to wait and see, of course, but again, fingers crossed all goes well with Sammy there. Now let's get into the comment of the day to wrap up this video, as we love to do here on the channel. It comes from yesterday's video, of course. And this was just an interesting comment that kind of had to do with what we talked about. But D-Bear here says having two teams play one game if they tied with points would be awesome. Now, that's obviously, we somewhat spoke about the Flames almost making the playoffs last year. They were tied on points with the Blues, but lost the tiebreakers. Why not just have those two teams play to get in? I think they still do that in the MLB. I know they definitely used to get into that wild card game sort of thing. Do they still do that? I'm not too sure. But either way, that would be a great idea in hockey as well. Kind of take away those tiebreakers. Who cares if you won more games in regulation? The points are the points. That's what you're playing for. I don't know. That's a whole debate that we could make a series of videos on. But either way, I really do like this idea, and it could be very entertaining. Great marketing for the NHL if they did that as well. But thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to what you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.